Hey guys, Toby with Vigilante Performance, and this video is going to be on the importance of a proper valve job. Now, if you're doing a valve job on, let's say, some small block Chevy camel hump heads, or let's say GT40 iron, small block Ford heads, it's still important to make sure you get a good valve job so it seals. Although you probably won't pick up the same CFM or flow numbers as you would with an aftermarket head like a TFS high port or an AFR, or even these CNC ported factory GM LS3 heads. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I got these heads in, I didn't like the valve job, and I wanted to actually show our customers what the difference is, because a lot of times we get customers that ask, how much am I going to pick up? Well, like I said, it's going to be different for each cylinder head, but this video will kind of show you what you might pick up on a performance valve job or a specialty valve job. So let's get into this one. Okay. Obviously the seats haven't been cut on this cylinder head. You can look at the exhaust. The exhaust is over 100 thou wide. So it looks like somebody just took a stone, just ground it until they were happy with it. Let's look at the intake. You can see the one angle here from the CNC. You might be able to see the lines. And you've got one undercut, then you've got a 45. That 45 is about 50 thou wide, so it's not bad. Look at the exhaust, same thing. This sucker's over 100 thou wide. Same here, undercut, that 45 is a bit wider. Same wide, 45 on the exhaust. And then look at this 45. This 45 is much wider. That's about 70, 75 thou. And same on the exhaust on this one. And this one's about 60 thou wide. So what I did is I took the time to flow test this cylinder head, and I did a before and after. So it's got our cutter for the exhaust that has a 45 and a radius going obviously towards the exhaust runner. And same here for the intake. It's a 5-angle cutter. So it's one of our custom 5-angle cutters. And you might be able to see I did minimal hand blending right there. So we've got the undercuts, we've got a 45, and you might be able to barely see the top cut because this head had CNC chamber porting. So that obviously gets rid of the material. But I also don't want to sink in this valve job too much. So that's the reason you can barely see that, okay? And you can see they're all about the same. 45 with the radius. And not only that, actually, the important thing is using a seat and guide machine, you can cut the seats at the same depth. And it's incredibly important. I mean, I know a lot of guys like running stones, and that's fine. If you can do a good job with a stone, that's honestly, it's perfectly fine. The reason I like using cutters and seat and guide machine is because I can make sure the seats are all cut evenly. That's important because this way all the valve tips are even, okay? For the intake and the exhaust. People don't understand this, but cylinder heads have a margin of valve tip height. And it's incredibly important because these guys basically hit the cylinder heads with stones, and they can really push the seat down. And now you've got a tip that's 30, 40 taller. And then you have to change your push rods. So that's why it's incredibly important to make sure that you use a specialty shop on a aftermarket cylinder head, or anything that's really going to be a performance cylinder head, because they would take more time with a valve job. Now, another thing too, ignoring the seats, let's see if we can focus on this one right here. So you can see I was grinding the tip of this valve. But this is the tip that was done previously. Let's see if we can focus on that. I mean, that sucker is probably about an 8-degree angle. And to be honest with you, there's no way I could grind this valve. So it had to be replaced, because there's no way I'm going to grind it, possibly get to remove the hard tip area. And then the customer is going to have problems down the road. But most shops, I hate to say it, but they don't care. I mean, they just want to get the parts in and out. There are a lot of specialty cylinder head shops that will be able to take care of you. And it's incredibly important, if you have an aftermarket cylinder head, especially if you're trying to make some power. The other thing is, if the seats themselves don't seal, you might, it'll affect your horsepower. It'll affect gas mileage. And I've actually had some LS heads come in. The shop installed the cylinder heads that the customer brought in, fresh valve job, and it had a slight misfire. Okay, well, they took them off again, brought the heads to me, did a valve job, made sure everything sealed as it should, and misfire gone. So it's incredibly important, especially with aftermarket, vehicles and EFI, that the valve job is done right so you don't have those misfires. Okay, so now, like I said, I flow tested the cylinder head before and after. So let's actually get into the numbers and see what just the valve job gains. Valve job and the hand blend, that's it. I mean, I didn't do any porting. And to be honest with you, it's kind of hard to tell right here. You can see the short turn overhangs slightly. Okay, it overhangs slightly. And now I could have laid this back a bit and picked up a bit more on the mid and high end, or higher lift numbers, but I didn't because I wanted to do a true before and after. So actually I've got the numbers right here. So let's actually check these out. Okay, so now I also took the time to flow test some factory LS3 cylinder heads. So these are the factory LS3 flow numbers. The CNC is these heads as they came, right? So this is CNC as they came, and valve job. So this is after. This is the intake. We got the exhaust numbers right here. Okay, so once again, we're not going to focus on the factory LS3 intake or the exhaust. I put them here. A lot of guys like to watch videos on the phone, so you might be able to screenshot and actually see it. Now, the intake on the factory LS3 usually starts to back up around 600 lift, and that shows about right. So this one got 322 CFM, and they vary slightly. They do. I mean, I've seen some as low as like 310, and they start backing up. So let's focus on this one. So as the heads came in, 100 lift, 84, we got to 86. It's not a big gain. 200, 168, 171, 300, 237, 246. All right, so now we're picking up. Now at 400, 286, 289, about even. 500, 315 to 328. 550, 327, 345, almost 20 CFM right there, okay? 600, 335, 358. So we've got 23 CFM. 23 CFM difference just at 600. 650, 340 to 363. So again, 23 CFM. And once again at 700, 346 to 369. So 23 CFM again. Now, as I mentioned, had I played with the short turn, had I actually, laid it back a bit, then I'm sure we would have picked up a bit more, but I wanted to do a true comparison to before and after. If I had laid back that short turn, it's not a true apples to apples comparison. So now at 750, I didn't have room. I wanted to make this nice and neat for you guys. But 750, the CNC heads do start backing up about 8 CFM. The valve job starts backing up about 10, 11 CFM, and then it starts picking up. So it doesn't really matter because most of the time, most guys aren't running over 600 lift, and some people will say, well, you need to make sure it doesn't back up. I've done plenty of stock valve jobs or 5-angle valve jobs in LS3s with just a spring cam change. They've all picked up. So it all depends on how big the cubic inch is, the RPM you're turning. But this really shows you a nice comparison, and it's something that most guys will be able to get valuable information from. So now let's look at the exhaust. Once again, factory LS3 right here. So this is as they came in, 63 versus 61. So we lost 2. At 200, gained 4. 300, gained 7. 400. So now we're at 11 at 400. 500. I mean, that's 19 CFM right there. I mean, we're gaining. At 550, 194 to 217. That's a huge difference. Huge difference. And like I said, that's because whoever did the last valve job, I mean, they just hit it with a stone. They don't care. you know, it's one of those wham bam, thank you ma'ams, and it's out of here. But having that radius cutter makes a big difference, as the numbers show. So now at 600 lift, 25 CFM difference, 650. Okay, look at that, 204 to 231. At 700, 208 to 235. So, and it just kept going. I believe it went to like 240, around 850 or 900 lift. So the exhaust did keep going. I mean, it's got a huge exhaust. And like I said, that's all it is just the valve job. It's just cutting the seat. Now, I did mention, I mentioned tip heights. And the reason it's important, is because of balance. And a lot of people don't understand. They think balance, you know, they think of pistons and rods and, you know, the whole bob weight deal. But it's also important to get the tip heights even on the intake, on the exhaust, although you want to get exhaust even and the intake even. And the reason for that is because as the cam is rotating, that lifter, whether it's solid or hydraulic, is going to open somewhat evenly. And if you get even cylinder filling, then the engine is more balanced as a whole, and that will help make horsepower. So that's why, like I said, a lot of these shops that, like I said, to just hit them with a stone, they don't care. They don't even take the time to verify seat pressure, open pressure, etc. They can be costing you horsepower. Now, like I said, it's going to be bigger on, you know, a CNC ported head like this, because I mean that's a race port cylinder head. That LS3 heads, LS7 heads, it's like a racing cylinder head. It's a race port, it's got a huge port, and it's got bigger valves, so it makes a bigger difference. But anyway, I figured I'd make this video because I get plenty of people that ask about, you know, what their difference is going to be. And, you know, like I said, it's kind of hard to tell because each cylinder head is going to be different. So hopefully this helps you guys. And like I said, the next time you do a valve job, send your heads out. Make sure it's somebody that is actually going to take the time and knows what they're doing, so that way you guys are not down any horsepower. All right, thanks guys. Thanks for watching.